Hey, it's Amy from Create Magic at Work, and welcome to the Magic Formula. I've teamed up with John Nieters from Test RX MD to bring you exactly what you've been asking for. I'm so excited to introduce you to this special series that takes you on a deep dive into experiencing life fulfillment and magical peak experiences through the lens of quantum leadership and spiritual intelligence. In this series, we'll explore powerful practices to help you embrace your full spiritual self as a leader and harness your energy for peak performance. People everywhere are seeking these magical moments that elevate their lives and work, and we're committed to delivering just that. Trust me, this series will not disappoint. So come with me and let's dive into the Magic Formula.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Magic Formula with myself, John Nieters, and Lynn, Durham. We're excited to share with you guys every aspect of consciousness and, basically iterations of that being unity consciousness and just consciousness as a whole, and then also getting into awareness and self-awareness and basically setting yourself up for success in each of these areas so that you're able to transcend and basically reach any possible goal that you could even imagine. So I'll let Lynn take it from here.
Wow, that's a big statement, John. So John just claimed that we are going to help you reach any goal that you can ever imagine. And he actually truly believes that claim, by the way, and he actually can really help you, help us achieve that. So today, as part of this Magic Formula mini-series, we're going to get into consciousness and awareness and what that even means and why you should even care. So John, let's start off talking about self-awareness. Is it a phrase? It's two words, a hyphenated word, self-awareness. It's kicked around in the corporate space a lot. Like, are you self-aware? A ton of personality and leadership assessments have self-awareness as a key component. In fact, a lot of the Create Magic at Work listeners are familiar with the Edgewalker work, and one of the skills as an Edgewalker is self-awareness. And the definition from Dr. Judy Neal of self-awareness is awareness of your thoughts, values, and behavior, and a commitment. This is where you come in, John. And a commitment to spend time in self-reflection with the goal of becoming a better person. And a person that scores really high in self-awareness is really able to, one, understand themselves better, but they will also have a high level of sensitivity and awareness of others and be able to understand other people's feelings and motivations. That being said, tell us what your take on self-awareness is. We'll start there. And perhaps some things that we can do without taking a leadership assessment. Let's have some fun to help improve our self-awareness and why we should.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So in today's world, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, right? All sorts of frequencies that you're exposed to, all sorts of just distractions and energy from every direction. How do you make sense of it, right? And that's what all self-awareness practices are all about. It's all about how do you extract your own energy from the environment to know what truly is you. So it's kind of like, it's definitely tied into the aspect of living with intention. So when you get up in the morning and you go to work, like, do you just feel like you're swimming down a stream and it's just pulling you left, right? You can't do anything about it. You're not really putting your own touch on anything. You're just getting pulled by colleagues in every direction. And then all of a sudden your kid needs something, you're just getting riptide around. So how do you navigate that? By basically having your own goals, but then working backwards from those goals so you can have smaller little deadlines to truly make the most impact each and every day so that you're able to have the most impact possible, which is a beautiful thing. So a big part of that is, so if you need to extract your energy from the environment to know what truly is you, how are you going to be able to do that? Even if you're a social butterfly and love being around people, you obviously need to isolate yourself from that environment to know truly you and the essence of you. And to do that, that's really the only effective way. The more time that you spend in isolation and the more time that you spend in meditation or some of these mindfulness practices to understand truly how your experiences have shaped your individual consciousness, which is also your perspective on the world and how the lens that you live through every single day, which is a pretty important thing. And to know that the ego loves to control. And a lot of times that ego makes it so that you're very stagnant. Like you have one viewpoint, this is what it is, nothing else matters, and you're stuck to that. Which once you start understanding energy, you start understanding that the only thing that's constant is change. So you have to be able to roll with the punches. You have to be able to adapt. And part of this adaptation process is the ability to reflect and to be able to move through the day without getting emotionally charged by either menial things or big things. Because at the end of the day, once you charge something with emotion, you're giving it life and you're allowing it to expand and actually truly take hold of you. So the much better way of navigating these waters is to be able to almost have like a third person perspective to where you don't charge things negatively or positively. You see them for what they are. And then that gives you the most information, good information to act upon so that you can do whatever you're trying to do at that point. So,
yeah. So much came up for me while you were sharing that. One of the 4 universal healing salves is recognizing the sweet territory of silence. And when you talk about isolating, that reminded me of that. When did we stop enjoying the sweet territory of silence? Whatever that looks like for someone. I know meditation is kind of like the go-to prescription for every self-help thing right now. Like, go meditate. The question I think that would help be a micro step, that my takeaway for that is, isolating to enhance self-awareness. How can I continue to practice when something feels like it's right? How is my head, my heart, and my gut in alignment? How can I practice feeling when things aren't right as far as self-awareness goes? And to what you just said, when I'm practicing recognizing how I feel when things are right and how I feel when things aren't right and where these feelings reside, what do I want to charge with my energy? Because as you were sharing that, I was like, Kel, I have felt a lot of times when things aren't right, and I freaking charged that shit. Like I was pissed, or I went for it. I charged it. And then what comes with that is shame, negative self-talk. I'm supposed to know this stuff. Why? I know the law of attraction. I know, this and that. So if somebody is practicing, really, this is a lifelong practice, practicing self-awareness, practicing being aware of our thoughts and our behavior, practicing this with the goal of becoming a better person. How can we catch ourselves in the moment and charge the right thing? And when we say charge, we mean like give it life, right?
I love that. So yeah, I mean, a big part of that is to know that, like, as we discussed previously, where attention goes, energy flows, right? So that's that spark of life of what we're talking about here. And a lot of that comes down to some of the things that you just touched on, of, being in alignment or not in alignment. So after you start understanding that, resonance controls everything, like we were talking about, and that, your thoughts do have their own specific resonance, which is you being imprinted upon by those thoughts, you start really like being worried about, well, oh God, so now I've got sometimes all these negative thoughts to go through my head. Like, how do I control that? Like, I can't have that going through my head. Well, it's not necessarily about having it go through your head or your mind. It's what we just touched on, that charge of emotion. That charge is what actually gives that life. So the way to think about this is basically you are a body of water, right? Human bodies are, about 80% water. So you're here to protect your own vessel and your own essence and your own water. Think of it like that, right? So, and knowing how sensitive water is or can be to these resonances or frequencies, you really start understanding like how important your mind truly is, because the mind is what emanates all of these frequencies. So as long as you're able to view like passively, it's kind of like, think of it like you're walking around a museum, right? All those paintings on the wall, they all exist and they always will exist. I mean, obviously, unless someone torches one or something like that, but in the museum framework, they will always exist. What paintings are you going to walk up to and actually examine is what it comes down to. Those are going to be the most impactful upon you. Whereas if you just see a painting or a room of paintings, there's 100 paintings in the room. Are you really going to be able to be impacted by all 100? Or are you going to walk through? Yeah, you maybe view, a bunch of them, but there's going to be a handful that you go up to and actually inspect further. That is that charge that you're placing upon it. So when you have these thoughts go through your mind, yeah, they can pass through, but once they pass through, they're gone unless you give them that charge. And that is your attention, right? So just understanding that little piece right there can be a massive difference for a lot of people. Another thing that I personally did and truly love this framework for like goal setting and just life in general is just gamifying life, right? So when you start like looking at all these business models that have come about, all these metaverse things and all that, they're gamifying that. And they're rewarding based, like they're giving you crypto or rewarding you in some way for certain actions. So now think about it like this. What if you were the director of your own movie, game, say what you will, but you could design that to be any way you wanted, right? Well, that's the power that you have here once you gamify things. So you're the director and the main character in your own movie or game. So now you need to start thinking about, okay, so if I'm the director and the main character, that means that I can pretty much do anything I want as long as I understand the energetic ramifications of that. And if that is in alignment with something that I want, I'm probably going to want to go pursue it. And if it's not, I'm probably not going to. I mean, it's very black and white. It's very simple. So once you start understanding that, when things go easy for you, or you feel like you're kind of in the flow state, it's probably in alignment with what you're wanting to do. If all of a sudden things are difficult, and yes, you need to push through walls and all that kind of stuff to pursue your vision, but there's a point where maybe you're hitting wall after wall after wall after wall. Well, maybe there's a better way. Maybe that's what the universe is trying to tell you. Like maybe this is just not the right path that you're trying to go down to get your result. And there's something that you need to reflect upon that will reveal itself either through mindfulness practices or just over time as you explore things further, which is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I like where you're going with this, because we're talking about awareness and self-awareness. And the reason why I don't think it's ever really shared, I mean, hopefully it is, but I don't know if I ever grasped it in all of the leadership trainings I went through. The reason why we're doing this for selfish reasons is so we can have better decision-making skills and we can have better interactions with other people. So when you're talking about aligning with the ebb and flow of life, how do I discern when to push or when to pause? This practice of elevating our self-awareness can really help enhance our decision-making in that process. And yes, we may be really working towards a life purpose goal. However, there might be many paths to that goal than the only one that we can see, or maybe the only one viewpoint our ego is stuck on, like you stated, right? And so exercising a practice in self-awareness, I think it is a big part of helping all of us have this better decision making, and it relieves stress, and it kind of releases this burden. The other thing I want to mark down, I finally get it when you're talking about gamifying things, because I was like, gamify. At first I was like, this sounds like bypassing trauma, or I'm not sure, are we just like, people talk about like spiritual bypassing, but the way you talk about it is almost like a stress relief for me. Like, I've been under at times in my life an immense amount of stress, like heavy burden feelings. And the things that have snapped me out of it have been like, okay, I'm the observer of my life. And to use your words now, like, I'm in a game. How do I earn more points for doing good? How do I earn more points? How do I not lose points? Who do I want to be in this movie of my life? Who do I want to be in this game? And for some reason, it helps me not take myself so seriously. And it helps me sort of move through whatever felt so big for me at the time. So I just want to echo that back when you're sharing that. I want to move to consciousness, because we started with awareness and self-awareness because, for obvious reasons, it's where it starts, right? Like, am I aware of my emotions, my surroundings, my interactions, how I'm being with others, how I feel? How do I feel things when they're right? How do I feel when things are wrong? Okay, so now, John, what is consciousness? What is the difference between self-awareness and consciousness?
So first of all, I want to touch on something that you said earlier, where when you're struggling, it gives you a way out by gamifying things. And that's exactly what it does, but it does something even more powerful. So what you're doing, when we just explained how, you have thoughts going through your head, where attention flows, energy goes. So what you focus on is going to be what happens, right? So what we're doing when we're gamifying, though, is we're removing that emotional charge. And now we're putting you in a framework that is set up like a game. So now you can go and play. So now you're turning your life into a framework that allows you to go play and explore. And that is the correct mindset to gain wisdom, to gain knowledge, to progress just in general, because now you're working on being present. Because think about it. If you're a child and you're playing, you're very present because you're happy, you're joyful, you're interacting, all of these things that are positive. So now you can take away anything that's draining you energetically and just go play. And so now when you're able to create your entire life in this framework, now every single thing that you go and do on a daily basis is you going to go play. What better thing could you possibly want, right? And now here's the cool part. So now let's link this back to consciousness. So now you're going out and you're going to go play, right? You've removed that emotional charge. So now with consciousness, you can figure out, okay, so if I do this, so there's always the law of cause and effect, right? So now you can go play and throw some causes out there and see what effects they have. And now you're learning the Hermetic principles, law of cause and effect being one of them, right? So now you're short-circuiting things to where, okay, so if I do this, then that happens. So what result do I want? And now I can work backwards. So if I know I want this result, what cause do I look for that produces that effect? It's very simple. And so then it turns into, that's literally what consciousness is. What are you doing that affects your environment, right? Energetically or physically, it's in mirror of each other. So it's super simple in my mind, but to get to that, you have to be exposed to that idea. Otherwise, like, that was a very long process of me coming to this conclusion of the best way of operating, in my opinion. But I love just how all the puzzle pieces just kind of fit together. I just felt like I received a download one day when I was meditating and it just clicked, boom. And that ever since it's been this way.
So good, bringing the playfulness in. That's one of the Edgewalker skills and qualities is playfulness. Like, you cannot be an Edgewalker without having a high level of playfulness. And I just love how you brought that like magic to that awareness piece. And it's a call for all of us to add some more play. We have to be reminded literally almost every day, I feel, to bring more playfulness into our lives and work.
Hey everyone, we hope you're enjoying this episode of The Magic Formula. Amy and I want to take a quick break to share something special with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. We have created a dedicated page at createmagicatwork.net called The Magic Formula, where we've curated a collection of tools and products that align with everything we're talking about here on The Magic Formula: health, success, resonance, and leadership.
And most importantly for you guys, these products we personally recommend and vet, putting our name on these products to help you raise your vibration, shift your mindset, and bring more magic into your life and leadership.
We've added the link to the show notes so you can just click on it straight away and explore some of the most cutting-edge products you can get to elevate your life and leadership.
We're excited to keep this journey going with you guys. Now let's get back to the Magic Formula.
Okay, so now that you've taken us into consciousness, what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about consciousness, or do you want to talk about unity consciousness, or the difference between the two, or why anyone listening should even care about consciousness? There's so much of that word kicked around, oh, this is in the energy consciousness right now, or with a global consciousness is this, all these people use this verbiage. What are they talking about?
Basically, there are different consciousnesses that exist all at the same time, and levels of consciousness. So this kind of goes back to the game, right? You can level up yourself with that. Right. Okay. So just making sure that was all in alignment for everyone. So basically, if all of these different levels of consciousness coexist, so if you get back to physics and you think about, so conservation of energy, no energy can be created or destroyed. So now all you're doing is accessing these consciousness levels. And if you remember what we talked about previously when it comes to resonance and how your pineal can actually act as a radio receiver and transmitter, you see probably where this is going, right? So now you have all these different levels and you have the ability to basically operate as a radio antenna and a radio transmitter at the same time. So now it's like, okay, you have these end results, you know the effect that you're wanting by the level of consciousness that you're wanting. That effect has a resonance, as we've discussed previously. So now what you want to do, if it has a specific resonance, what are you able to do to align yourself with that resonance? When you align yourself with that resonance, it's basically you got a remote control in your hand. You just flip the channel. And when you flip that channel, you've now accessed you can access new dimensions, new consciousness. I mean, whatever you want to access, you have that remote. You just have to be aware of it. And you have to be aware of how are you able to change your frequency up or down? And that's the magic. Because if you can do that and you can learn that sliding scale of increasing your resonance or decreasing your resonance, and you can do it at a very granular level, now you're a Superman, because you can literally incarnate into any existence at any given moment, which is what a lot of the ascended masters are able to do. When you look at like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the basis of all religion, he explicitly says in the tablets that he has achieved such a high level of consciousness that he can incarnate into any dimension and any level of consciousness at will, which is powerful, right? And that's all that is talking about. And this is where the gamification and all these puzzle pieces kind of fit together for me, is when I went back to this esoteric religion, I was like, oh, wow, this makes a lot of sense, right? You're able to connect these dots from all these different pieces, plug it in, and it just works. And so for me, that's kind of like mentally when you start thinking about certain systems. So everything is a system. Your body's a system, workflow and business is a system, whatever you want to say, it's a system. So when you start understanding these systems, you start understanding like, that's how that works. And if it's simple, then it's probably actually how it works. If you have some convoluted solution over how somebody did this or whatever, it's probably not how it actually worked out. It's probably much simpler than that. I love that aspect. And then now let's kind of get back into what consciousness and then unity consciousness. So the difference there. So there are different levels of consciousness that we talked about. So the unity consciousness, an easy way to think about that It's basically the interconnectedness aspect. So a good visualization that I found for that is the pebble and a lake that's glass. Like, there's no wind, no current, just glass, water. You take that pebble and you drop it in that lake, in the middle of the lake, right? When you do that, you have, all the waves that are concentric that come out, and then you get the reverberations off the shore, or like if there's a rock or something or a tree that's down, like you get the reverberations off of all of that. Then you can start understanding resonance by visually seeing it, because then when you start seeing the reverberations, you can start seeing, oh, okay, so that is how resonance is canceled out by having the phase shifted by 180 degrees, or it can be an addendum to add. So there can be additive properties as well. So there are different ways where if you start understanding resonance like that, then you can say, okay, well, if I'm able to do this amount by myself, and then I can understand how I can get other things to amplify my energy. Well, now you're really cooking with Crisco, because now you're able to achieve things outside of just your singular self. Imagine being able to have, so as humans, the connectedness aspect is huge, right? That human interaction, the connectedness. Now, so you can do these things yourself, but imagine if you had, I don't know, I'm literally picking a number out of thin air right now. Imagine you had 10 spiritually awakened individuals, very in tune with their energy and very in tune with natural law. And you all put your mind to the same goal. How much more effective is that going to be rather than just one person doing it, right? That compounding effect is going to be much greater than just 10, because it's the additive effects on the resonance aspect. So you're going to have it be exponentially higher than that because they compound on each other, right? So it's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the data in SQ is, from whatever space you're operating from, it ripples out 10 times over to your team if you're in that leadership position. So to me, what you're saying is consciousness can influence how we interact with the world, and we can put an end goal in mind and then sort of reverse engineer. I hear a lot of people say that, and I finally got a little bit more what it means, how we want to get there to align with it. Now, unity consciousness, to me, I've always thought of it as, how can I recognize the interconnectedness of all of life? How can I, when you're talking about that pebble in the water and its ripple effect, I'm thinking, what is it rippling over? Who are the ripples going to? And of course, we've heard of the butterfly effect, right? And now there's also the reverse butterfly effect. Have you heard of that one? Maybe we can get into that another conversation. But the point of the unity consciousness for me is, when we are exercising self-awareness, when we are aligning ourselves with that end goal, and we have that remote control, and we're flipping that switch, how does our end goal incorporate our communities, the planet, and humanity itself for the greater good? Because I see a lot of people that feel they've had spiritual awakenings, or they feel like they're operating from a higher level of consciousness. And the only thing that I see happening at a rapid rate is learning how to manifest things for themselves. And so, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so that's that ego component. One thing here that for me made a huge difference, and I know that I've had so many people reach out to me wanting more information on the plant medicine side of things, right? And how that commingles or intermingles with things, and how leaders can use this to truly exponentially increase their ability to lead, and to lead effectively. So one issue that I personally had, and I'm sure that if you're like me in the beginning, you're going to go through this same exact experience, where you have that issue of like the ego still trying to flip on, right? Well, one of the easiest ways to get through that, and we'll kind of sneak peek here. We're going to give you guys a little bit of bonus content in an upcoming episode. So we'll kind of peep that out here so that it can, I don't know, ignite some future thought patterns here for you guys. We'll plant the seed. So you may have heard of the term ego death that happens when you take. I think in my experience, it's mostly been associated with like either ayahuasca or psilocybin. Also, in my experience, I truly believe that can happen with any psychedelic. It's all up to you and what you're trying to do with it. So essentially what you're able to do when you take a psychedelic or use plant medicine is you're putting that body to sleep. So you're putting the ego self to sleep so that you can truly operate from a much higher perspective through your mind without the ego's influence. Now, imagine how powerful this would be. So instead of just being self-serving on the goal side, to truly make a difference in society. So imagine having a meditative practice that involves potentially some plant medicine to where you're diving within yourself, since we have established before that all of the answers are truly within yourself, since we live in a fractal universe. That allows you to go much deeper than just how is this goal that I'm wanting going to affect me? Because ultimately, you're going to succeed in a much greater fashion if you're able to, A, provide value to society or impact it in a positive way, meaning you're bringing love and light into a community or into any population whatsoever. When you're able to do these things, the little self-serving goal that you maybe set, like I'm trying to give you both scenarios here so you can see like how much more profound and how much more effective it's going to be going the transcendent route instead of just the self-serving route. So first of all, the self-serving route is going to be ego-driven. And yeah, it can help you in the short term, but a lot of times, karma is a real thing. You're going to have issues in the long run. So it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare argument, to where, if you're going to be doing something, providing value for society as a whole, a population, whatever, it's probably going to take more time to build because you're affecting many more people. So there are many more contingencies and things you have to worry about, but you're going to have a much more profound effect. So let's just I'm literally just putting a monetary value here purely for this example, so you can see how much more profound it can be. So let's say you did a self-serving goal and you wanted to make $1 million next year. We'll say 2025, you're going to make $1 million, right? But what if you also, and this self-serving goal, let's just say was promotion in whatever company you're talking about, and this promotion by itself will get you to that goal. So now think about it like this. So that's serving you. So now what about the population? So at the same company, you can still have these goals that are financial in effect for yourself, but then you can say, okay, add one more contingency. How can I make $1 million next year while also providing value to the community? So that can be as simple as, okay, yeah, you attain this position, but with this position, you do something specific rather than just seeing the finish line as having the position and making the money. So now you've made the money, but now what are you going to do with it? That's going to be serving you in the future. So now if you're doing something productive that brings love or life or value to a community, well, now that position is being seen as something that's much more impactful. So from a top-down perspective, if you're having a position that's much more impactful, what's the next thing that happens? Normally a raise is in effect, or maybe a whole new department is created and you're going to run it, or who knows what that looks like, but you're going to have a much more profound effect. And it's going to be amazing karmically, because not only did you achieve your goal, but you achieved your goal while lifting others up with you, not just pouring into your own cup. You're pouring into your own cup and then spilling over into the population, which is the much more profound effect. And then not only that, think about all the relationships that can be generated from that, all the connections that can be generated that can be serving in the future for future deals, future projects, whatever. I mean, this is an animal that is, instead of the million, over time, you could generate 50 million from this one goal instead. So you can kind of see how that plays out.
I mean, that was amazing the way you separated the two and took it all the way out for a visual for us. That's exactly what I was wanting to kind of like see, like that story painted. So thank you. I think that's a beautiful way to end this conversation, because you kind of tied in an example of how we're practicing working on your self-awareness and your awareness and elevating your consciousness can help you tap into unity consciousness and the interconnectedness of life, and just really send that ripple effect to help us all kind of feel a little bit better sometimes in a world that can feel pretty heavy at times for some people.
Let me add one more thing too before you wrap up.
No, go for it. I don't want you to lose your thought.
Okay, so money as a whole is a spiritual thing, right? So let's go back to this goal, right, where you're pouring into the community. So you're pouring this energy into this community, right? Law of conservation of energy. It's going to be reciprocated back into you. So take the money aspect out, just make it a spiritual energy, because money is a spiritual thing and it has spiritual energy to it. So take the money part out, because I know that can trip up a lot of people. So instead, make it an energetic thing. So now you're pouring all of this spiritual energy into the community. Anytime, and this is kind of the law of attraction thing, whatever energy you put out there is going to be reverberated back to you. And it's going to normally be reverberated back to you with an exponent attached. So it's going to be exponentially more powerful. So now let's just put it into units. Let's just say you're putting 100 units of spiritual energy into the community. It's going to be reverberated back to you with an exponent. So maybe that 100 units turns into 1,000 units pushed back upon you. Just want to make that very clear for people.
Yeah, it's like compounding interest, right? Yeah, I love it. I have so many takeaways from today. One thing that came up for me while you're sharing all of this that I just wrote down really quickly was like, I am not my thoughts. I am the observer of my thoughts. Who do I want to be in this short life that I have, in this movie of my short life?
You're the director of your thoughts, even better, because you can direct them into
I like that.
A bin that you're going to care about or a bin that you're not going to care about.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, next month, John is going to be back on with the magic formula. And John, what are you going to be covering next month in November?
So I've had a lot of people inquire about this, and it's not something that's in the pillars explicitly, but it's something I've had so much interest that's been generated around it that it would almost be a disservice to not cover this for you guys with how much the community or the energy from the community is pouring into me that they want this. So we're going to get into plant medicine, what's actually going on there, like what actually happens when you ingest some of these substances, what to expect. I'm kind of just breaking down those walls, because a lot of like how America has been set up, it's just insane. Like, I mean, all the way back to let's just talk about cannabis as a whole. Look at like reefer madness and all the propaganda to try to get you to be scared of it and not use it for you're going to turn into some crazy person, right? So all this stuff. So we're going to really get to the bottom of that and actually figure out ways that you're able to utilize these substances to become superhuman.
Nice. Yeah. So next month, the magic formula will be back. We'll be deep diving into plant medicine for leadership. Imagine that. Don't tell HR to tune in next November. Just kidding, HR. I love you. So yeah, we'll be diving into that. It's really the secret sauce that a ton of leaders are using that I personally know that, isn't really talked about in the meeting room or the boardroom. And if you check the show notes, there's a bunch of links that you can access, one of which you can schedule a consultation with John. So if you're already like chomping at the bit and you're like, I want to learn some more of this stuff, you can schedule with John. And we have a magic formula page that we've created that has the links to all of the magic formula episodes, as well as specific products that John has vetted, which you heard about in the middle of the show today. So John, cheers to another episode of the magic formula on consciousness and awareness.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm very, very excited for basically my bread and butter next month.
Awesome. I can't wait. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.